And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Folks, I'm really proud to have in the Car Clinic studio with me today Joan Irby and Dave Vanderlike. Joan is a recruiter for the Guardian Ad Litem program in Pensacola here, and David is a board member on the Northwest Florida Guardian Ad Litem Foundation. Joan and David, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
Car Clinic listeners, I know Guardian Ad Litem doesn't have anything to do with cars, but sometimes causes come to my attention, and I think we should all know about what the Guardian Ad Litem program does and what it brings to those of us who aren't as fortunate, perhaps, as we are. And that's why I asked Joan and David to join us today so that they can tell us what their foundation and their programs provide so that perhaps you may want to be involved as well. These organizations, the Guardian Ad Litem program and Guardian Ad Litem Foundation, may sound and are similar, but clearly not the same. Joan, could you tell our Car Clinic listeners what the Guardian Ad Litem program is and how the Guardian Ad Litem program affects the lives of children in our community and the communities across the nation?
Yes, sir. On any given day in the United States of America, there are 428,000 children in foster care. And what happens is once a child comes into the dependency court system because they've been abused, abandoned, or neglected, in the state of Florida particularly, they're given an attorney and a social worker by the judge, which is the Guardian Ad Litem organization, and we actually assign them a volunteer also. So they're represented, and their only interest as a grouping is the child's best interest. So that's what we do is advocate for them in the court system nationwide under CASA and locally under Guardian Ad Litem.
Got it. So David, tell us about the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation and how that differs from what Joan does, and specifically, what does the Guardian Ad Litem Foundation do when you say that you support the Guardian Ad Litem program? How and what do you do? Give us an overview of exactly how the foundation supports the program itself.
Well, our foundation has kind of a twofold mission to support the Guardian Ad Litem program through maintaining funds that the volunteers and the child advocate managers can use for their kids to provide a kind of a normalcy situation. We also are involved in recruitment, retention, and recognition efforts, and so that we are the fundraising arm, and that's a consistent arrangement across the country with the nonprofits that work with the local programs to provide support for those programs.
So David, where does the foundation get the funds and the money to support the Guardian Ad Litem program?
Well, we busy ourselves with a lot of fundraising activities. In the past year, we've primarily used golfing fundraisers to add funds to the foundation to help the effort. There's actually a variety of different kinds of activities, and we're only limited by our imagination there. All of our board members are volunteers, and they all have other activities going on in their lives, but everybody's got a great idea on how we can help support the program through the foundation.
So for an example, on a local level, whether it's here in Pensacola, Florida, or in California, or in the state of Washington, for all the folks who are involved in the Guardian Ad Litem in their local areas or in their states, you mentioned a golf event. You promote that, and then you have that, and then you have sponsors for those events?
Absolutely. That's probably the best part of the fundraising efforts, particularly the golf, is the sponsorships. The communities really come out to support Guardian Ad Litem across the board. Although just coming to the golf events are fun in and of themselves, but the sponsors are really very generous in their own right throughout our circuit and across the country.
So, Joan, let me get back to you. How important is the support of the foundation, and that's as it provides to the Guardian Ad Litem program. I know that in your arena, you're in the program, and in David's arena, he's a board member. I think you're a board member,
That's
David, and also a volunteer, I understand.
That is true.
So it's kind of like the Hotel California. Once you check in, you cannot leave, right? So how does that work, and the support? Where is it channeled?
What we do as an organization is we are to promote normalcy with foster kids. So when they want to do things, whether it's playing baseball, playing in the band with a musical instrument, being in a club, going to the prom, our goal is that they get to do the things that the normal kids get to do in those events. And that's why we're a state organization, so we don't have that money to give out for those things, and that's why the foundation does that, to promote normalcy. You've got to remember in this foundation that there's nobody getting a salary, we don't have a building, all of that's paid for by the state. So when people actually donate to the foundation, they're donating for, kids' needs, which they have a Children in Need Fund, or for recruiting events so that we can get more volunteers to advocate for these kids. The thing about them helping us with the advocacy point with the volunteers is that kids that have a Guardian Ad Litem assigned to them, the volunteer, that they do better in school, they have fewer placement changes, which is really important to these kids in foster care. They receive more services, they're more likely to be adopted, and that once they come out of the foster system, they're less likely to return. So it's very important that we get good quality people in here to volunteer, and the foundation helps us with those recruitment.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
folks, we're talking with Joan, pardon me, we're talking with Joan Irby, recruiter for the Guardian Ad Litem program in Pensacola, and David Vanderlike, a board member of the Northwest Florida Guardian Ad Litem Foundation. And of course, David, as we mentioned earlier, you are a volunteer as well. What's it like to be a volunteer? Just give us a brief overview of what do you do for a child that wants to play baseball. I mean, I think that's an easy thing to do, but obviously it's not.
Well, as you said, I started out as a volunteer, and my wife reminded me this morning that it was a Valentine's gift one year. She said, hey, we're going to go be Guardian Ad Litem volunteers. I really had no idea what she was talking about. I wasn't familiar with the program at the time. So we jumped in with both feet, really. They have a 30 hours of training that you have to go through before you actually start being involved with the kids. But these kids are in placements that can be difficult. Frequently, the people that are willing to take children into their homes are the least financially capable of handling those situations. So that's where we come in as a foundation to assist the program to help with these kids. And if there's needs like baseball or whatever, those needs are identified to the foundation, we provide the funds to make sure that happens, and it's a win-win. Again, she mentioned all the metrics that we look at for the benefits of having a Guardian Ad Litem volunteer associated with these children, but it also equates to hundreds of thousands of dollars across the country that's saved because these kids are in a better shape and experience a better conditions as they grow because of their association with a Guardian Ad Litem volunteer.
And if you think about it, we don't talk a lot about it, but if a child ages out of foster care, which we are, as a program, we're trying to get them in permanent placements. We're trying to get them adopted if they're not going to get to go back home. And if they do that, the kids that age out of foster care, 25% of them in 2 years will be on the street homeless. Another 25% will be in prison. That's 50% of our kids that age out at the age of 18 or 21 that are basically kids that we've lost. So it's very important, when people start complaining about things in society, if we can help these kids when they're younger.
So what's the youngest age of someone that you've had? I never realized it. What's the youngest age compared to the age out, which you said is 18?
Well, you can actually extend foster care into 21 because what we were finding was kids were missing grades, so, repeating grades, and so they could be 6 or 18 in the 11th grade. So we wanted to give them that extra time so they can extend foster care to 21. But if a baby tests positive to drugs, substance exposed in the hospital, we get them at 1 day old.
Yeah.
So, and with the
Newborns.
opioid crisis right now, we're getting lots and lots of newborns.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we have a big gamut of ages.
So, Joan, I want to dig a little deeper into what it's all about. The children and the volunteers that help them. How many, in the numbers, how many children and volunteer advocates are there in, let's say, our 4 counties of the First Judicial Circuit here? And then also specifically, what do you do for those children?
Right. Well, there's just under 1,700 kids in the First Circuit in the foster care system. Now, we can't represent all of those because offending children we can't represent, and children that have children. So if a 15-year-old has a baby, we have to get a pro bono attorney on that, and they can't be assigned to the program. Of those children, we have about 600 volunteers. When I tell people we have 600 volunteers, they're like, oh my gosh, that's great. But when you think about 1,700 kids, the numbers don't match. And our goal as a program is that we don't wear our volunteers out. We want them to be able to focus on one child. You know, most agencies have one social worker assigned to 50 to 80 kids. What we do is we assign one volunteer to one child or one family of children. It's a lot easier for that volunteer than to partner up with that social worker and the attorney.
How do I become a volunteer?
Okay, I'll sign you up today. So the main things, over 21, clean criminal background, because you got to remember we're in the court system, so that's very, very important. A year commitment and a heart for kids. You've already got a social worker that's going to take care of the social services side. You've got an attorney that's going to take care of the legal side. So basically that volunteer is the safe person in that child's life, and that's what we promote. So
you said 1,700, approximately 1,700 and 600 volunteers on a national level. What's that number?
Well, I mean, 428,000 kids, so I don't know nationally, you know, how many. But the state of Florida, I mean, we're very much a volunteer model. And we have 10,000 volunteers over that now, but 10,000 volunteers in the state of Florida with the Guardian Ad Litem program. And we also have pro bono attorneys that volunteer to take those other kids that we can't represent, you know, when they're conflicted. So, I mean, when you think about the money that saves the state of Florida, it's amazing. So nationwide, if we could come together, if people could realize that everybody can do something, you know, then these kids will have a better chance to become productive citizens, and that's all we want.
And that's our purpose here today. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And this is an important cause, and it's a program that you could get involved with by simply going to guardianadlitem.org. Is that the correct?
That's it.
Okay, just in case we had some, because, you know, we only go around this life one time, and I think to help others there's nothing just quite like that feeling. I want to go back to David. What is it that you do for the volunteer advocates? I'm an advocate. I've decided to be an advocate, and you've hooked me up. So what do you do in the Guardian Ad Litem program to help me?
Well, we're part of the support network, and we're a resource for all our volunteers. If you have children that have been assigned to you through the court appointment, and your kids need things that you aren't receiving from any other source, then we have a method for contacting us, requesting funds or things. We've provided everything from diapers to prom dresses, honestly, and everything in between. We want these children to have a normal experience as much as we can possibly help provide that.
So to recap, the purpose of Guardian Ad Litem program and the individuals that it serves, and the board members as well, who specifically are the children that you serve, and how do you find them, or do they find you?
Well, you got to remember, when they come into the dependency court system, they come to what's called a shelter hearing because there's been an incident. The 1-800-96 abuse number's been called. So then the judge will actually assign the children to Guardian Ad Litem. Now, I have people that call me all the time and say, you know, I'm a grandmother, my kids are being whatever, you know. We can't help those people, unfortunately, because they have to be assigned by the judge. So there has to be abuse, abandonment, or neglect in the state of Florida to get actually the Guardian Ad Litem assigned to those children.
Let's shift just a short gear here from a 30,000-foot view. What does it take to be a board member? I know that you are a board member, an advocate. You probably wear a lot of hats, David, and Joan, as you as well, as we all do in business and any organization. But where do you get board members? I mean, what if I wanted to be a board member? How do I qualify, and how do I go?
Probably the easiest thing to do is just express the desire that you want to participate at that level. We typically pull from our pool of volunteers to see if people are interested in coming on board. Like I said, we're all volunteers, so you have to have the time and the energy to participate on that level.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're, as the clock is always ticking, our Car Clinic listeners are passionate. They're passionate about their cars. They're passionate about life, and everyone's passionate about kids. And so they're caring folks. And I hope that this message will spur someone to join in some way in their local area across the nation the Guardian Ad Litem programs or the boards in their area. How would they contact someone?
GuardianAdLitem.org.
GuardianAdLitem.org. And also, you just have to remember, people always say they don't have enough time. The court mandate for this is 1 visit a month. So you can do so much more than that because you have a court order for that child. But, getting out there monthly to see that child is what the court order is.
And, of course, David and Joan, anyone that joins in, you'll help them and train them and show them what
yes,
to do.
Sir.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining me on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We'll have to get you back in the studio, and congratulations on all that you do. Folks, there you have it, GuardianAdLitem.org. Thanks for tuning in.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic.